I'd like to welcome everyone to today's show, Truth, the reality under the headline. Today's guest, we have Christopher Hoyer. We continue reading of the book, When That Day Comes, Training for the Fight. Today we'll be reviewing Chapter 10, and Chris should be joining us here shortly. There he is.
There he is. What's going on, bro?
How you doing?
Trying to download my freaking thing on there, but it wouldn't work. So,
Mama say there'd be days like this.
well, I got a brand spanking new laptop, and the thing's being a pain in the butt. So, trying to figure it out. But wow, my screen looks really bad, doesn't it?
How's the day going for you?
Good, actually, really good. All quiet. So, it was. Did I lose you? Bitch. Oh my god. This is a fucking nightmare.
So Nat, I said congratulations on that the book.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you for buying a copy.
Of course. They referred out to so many others as well.
That's awesome, man.
We're gonna we have to get you set up and get all this scheduled to where we do your chapter by chapter reading.
Awesome.
Having some trouble over here, man. Just trying to re-find you again.
You need to reboot and jump back on, or
I don't know. Let me
Where's your
there she is.
Hey.
Yeah. You can see us, we can't see you. I don't know what happened to my
How you doing?
So let me do that.
Is here where you're at?
No.
Yeah, like the webcam's a little blurry too.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my computer tonight.
Do you want to use mine?
You got StreamYard?
StreamYard. I don't. Is that where you're on? You're not?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're not on Zoom. We're on StreamYard. So.
I don't know then. How to do that.
All right.
Maybe redial or.
Let me just get back into my email, see if I can play back up that way. Good Lord, man. I don't know what's going on.
Is it the Wi-Fi connection or?
No, my it's been acting up lately. I don't know what's going on. I might be doubling down here on you. So.
Okay, hold on. Let's see if this is
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on here, man.
Okay, so I seen another one that was being added to the stream.
Let me hang on a second. Still got me?
Yes, sir.
We back to normal?
There.
There we go.
Holy snikes, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clearer picture and everything now. Perfect.
Yes. All right, there we go. I don't know what happened. My computer may or may not support this thing for the rest of the night because it's been acting up.
Plug it in.
No, it's all right. It's already 100%. So.
Well, if the computer don't support you, man, know that I support you. You know it?
Yeah, and you're cutting
you hear me?
out a little bit too. So, Jesus, man.
No, I said if the computer doesn't support you, I do.
Oh, no. I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Is it live right now?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Maybe she can get on hers. Maybe it'd be easier to. I'll just jump on hers instead of mine.
Yeah, but
so.
I don't have the StreamYard or whatever that you were.
Holy shit, man!
You should be able to. You might be able to do it in the browser. I don't think you have to download the StreamYard. Essentially, I think you could just like use the browser. You might be able to do it as long as you use that link, maybe. I don't think you have to download the StreamYard. Essentially.
I mean, you guys are on, right? You're good.
Yeah, but you got like a 5-second delay on yours. So.
I always do.
Oh, she always does. Okay.
I would give it a go.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a little delay on the like on live streaming. It gives that little 5 seconds. That's what helps like the closed captioning and everything else catch up.
Seems to be working
so
okay.
How's the? Yeah, it's working good. How's the day treating you?
Pretty good. Actually, I got holy shit, man! Our work gets smaller every single day. So I got a lady we talked up in Vegas with Randy Sutton and his folks, and it turned out that we already knew her, and now they had a picture of us all together, and I'm like, okay. She's from Ireland, and we were. I was invited by like a friend of a friend, as it turned out, and we already knew her. It's like holy shit! So she wants me to attend. It's called the Irish Angel. I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys. She's actually from Ireland, and she does a lot of traveling here in the States. So she's going to be here second or third week of March, and she's doing like a whole freaking tour across the country all 2022. She'll be in Boston and invited me to speak out there in middle of September, I guess. So I'm going to be out there for that, hopefully. Also got invited to the Ohio Tactical Officers Association conference as well. So hopefully get to speak there as well, which would be awesome. So, and next weekend I lied.
Hey, your microphone's cutting in and out.
Is it? Nat, you on there? Are you on?
I still see you guys.
All right. Fuck no.
Yeah, it's working good. How did
Stream.
Can you hear me now?
There's people on there. Somebody named Allie.
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Can
you
all right.
Can you send a link to her? See if I can just use her computer.
Yes.
I don't think it's gonna work, but we're gonna try it anyway. So
it'll work, man. Never say never.
Yeah. You guys are on here. I mean, I can see you.
But he's having trouble with mine now. So.
Oh, okay.
No, I hear you now. Loud and clear.
Well, keep.
Needless to say, regardless.
Yeah,
we can just have her jump. We can just have her jump on with us.
Yeah, so you're good for about 4 or 5 words, and then you drop off a little bit. So I don't know, man. That's why I hate technology.
You gonna send a link or?
Yeah, he's working on it.
So I will not be able to work on my thing.
So you see who's got in the background, right?
God.
So Natalie's got some kind of a lack of an infatuation with my box fans. Too. So.
Hey, what's her hold on for a minute.
Here.
Her email.
Should be a girl writer with a W. Having issues? Yes, we are. Still there?
Sure.
Okay. It's a girl writer, WRITER. 68 at
Yep.
Hotmail.
I must have had it at one point because I was on there. I was on the show, remember?
What's today? I don't even know what the date is. So, well, you better do this because you know I'm going to screw that up too. So,
You can do it. You'll see it.
Perfect. There we go, right there. So she should be
Showing my face.
whatever.
Irish Angels is a support network for police, EMS, firefighters, military, right? Yes.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to.
Still waiting. Uh-oh. I lost him completely now. Oh, there you go. You're back again.
Does it keep? I don't know why it keeps adding me as a second guest. I don't think I'm logged into my computer in the house, but she received that link.
No. Wait. Yep.
Yep. We're working on it.
Okay, here.
All right. Let's see here.
Is it there?
We're just bringing it above.
There you go. Check that one out.
All right, we're working on it. And she's taking my computer and not working. Oh, wait, drop it. Gotta get you signed up.
I'm trying to get out of
Oh.
this.
Hey, that pillow should be a part of the workload.
Okay. Well, there we go. Hey, I'm now
Hey,
out. All right, there we go.
oh,
Like the ugliest chick ever. Your freaking things all screwed up. Too.
I got people that do reconstructive facelifts and everything. That's pretty amazing right there, though.
I might need something better than that, man. I don't know. What's up with your thing here?
I don't know.
Oh my God, her camera's all jacked up, man. Her thing's brand new.
Yours was like that too.
Blah blah
I
blah.
think it's the face.
Whatever. Nice. Shit. Sorry for all the technical stuff here. I'm working on it. I'm gonna try not to blind you. Hang on.
What are you doing? It's fine.
No worries.
It's just the lighting. It's bad lighting.
It was fine before. All right, we're done bitching. Let's just move on, man. Holy shnikes. So what's going on, brother? Yeah. All right, I think we're getting closer.
So take your time.
No, I'm good. We're good now. We're good. I think we got everything. So nobody knows who I am now, but whatever.
Bear me for one moment. Be right back.
All right. Oh. Maybe better late. Yeah, that's
That's
too much.
good. Ooh, I sound terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Things really bad.
Thank you.
Cool. Still hear her phone all the way to the bedroom. So
I'm gonna turn it
Jesus,
It happens.
like under the freaking spotlight.
It's like I think this is the first time I've ever used my phone to do the broadcast. That love pillow, is that part of the love notes?
No, that's just one of her whatever girly things. So sometimes when you live with a woman, so. All right, turn that off. Holy cow, dude! So how are you, man?
Well, you don't have to apologize to me, man. I can do this all night, man. Even though it's midnight where I'm at.
Is it? Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I think that's right. I'm making payments.
Oh, yeah. Story of my life. So,
So, what's going on this weekend?
well,
Anything special?
I was supposed to have a podcast this morning, and she, I don't know what happened. No call, no show. It's 7:00 this morning, my time. I never did find out. So, that was pretty much that, I guess. So we ran around doing errands pretty much all day long. So, which is cool. Beyond that, I might hop on the motorcycle tomorrow. I haven't decided yet. So, that's about it.
Your the audio's cutting in and out.
Again? I was just playing with the volume. Maybe that had something to do with it. So,
I can hear you now.
all right.
Is the do you have another live one that's open right now?
I think she might have it on her phone, but I thought, let me go double check, make sure. Oh, Jesus. There you go. All right, I can see you again. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to figure this out, man. It's like it's kind of weird because it's like the first time that I'm actually using my phone to do the streaming rather than my camera setup and microphones and everything, and it keeps showing like two of me as a guest rather than just my original. So, but anyway, no worries.
We'll figure it out, I guess. So.
It's 34 degrees down here in Florida. People think it doesn't get cold, you know. We're almost at that freezing level.
34. Holy cow, dude! No thanks. Yeah,
34 degrees.
It's 54 here where I'm at. So, but you got the heater on because we're cold. But whatever.
Yes. I know, right? It's like because I'm from up in like Cincinnati, right, in Ohio and everything, and it's living down here in Florida. After a while, your blood thins out and everything else to where like 60 degrees starts to get to be like coat weather.
Oh yeah, that's what I used to say, man. If it's under 70, I'm freezing. So.
Also, little update. So the website, until we figure out like what your business name's going to be, because I was gonna incorporate one, the TFTF, training for the fight.
Yeah.
agency. I don't know if it was going to be like I don't know if you want to do it as a tactical sense or, what kind of training or to construct everything. But I got, so like your website's going to be ChristopherHoyer.com. I already have that one set up. I got an email set up for you, for Natalie, then for info at, and then I'm, putting all the different things for, this book and, when the next one comes out and things like that. And then I'm going to be listing out different, scheduling things for individuals to invite you out or, actually hold, training seminars and all that good stuff too. I'll run it by you before we start launching everything, but I'm just trying to get everything set up for you, man. You need to be everywhere. So
yeah, now I've got a business account through B of A already. I've already got all that set up, the tax stuff, but I can't remember what the freaking name is though, because I've done this a couple of times already. So I just got it back up in October of last year, so it's still kind of brand new. I haven't really done much with it at all. So we'll get there.
That's why I'm here.
Say again?
Oh, we're definitely gonna get you there.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
Oh yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks. I hope we can get.
So. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's one of the things too. Like I said before, I'd like to see it to where the collaboration of, because there's so many different programs and they all kind of, it's almost like a marriage. If everything's panned out and played out right, to where, like I said, with Ray Bashir's with the Blue Shield Tactical, Mike Zanito has his different, the service dogs and things like that as well too. Amanda Duzani, she has the Lifesaver Wellness program and things like that, to where, I'd like to really build a program around, everybody's insight, because these academies and things like that really need to be, set up. And a lot of the different agencies are outsourcing half the training anyway, especially specialty training and everything too. So, it's something that needs to be done. Plus, I'm a pretty good grant writer myself. There's all kinds of different federal funds and things like that to actually, back different organizations and agencies to start out, actually funds for the different agencies to actually receive the training and all that good stuff too. So
I know there's a ton of programs out there because we did. I mean, Phoenix outsourced all the time for their different things. So, and they were paying god awful amounts of money for guys that were really shitty instructors, man. We had actually one guy that ended up, he did, I think it was 3 or 4 40-hour classes for our entire department and ended up getting arrested for plagiarism because he was literally like reading off somebody else's stuff. It's like, dude, who hired this freaking clown, man? Are you kidding me? So some of the guys that had been through the actual training knew. So they reported, they're like, hey, what is this guy doing, man? And sure enough, man, he ended up getting freaking nailed for it. It was pretty funny. So, but
yeah, it's like learning the stuff on that. That's one of the things about like when you're training online, you never know where that shit comes from. You know what I mean? Somebody did a copy and paste, like, oh, here's your training course that I paid $5 for, but I'm going to sell it to you for $125 for a 2-day online course.
Exactly. I know.
But yeah, so I get there and things like that. I'm going to construct like a little business model and stuff like that, send it over for you and Nat to review and everything too. But
cool.
Yeah, got big plans for you, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Just don't forget your agent.
Oh yeah, no way. So start going on tour with us, man. We were talking about that today. Of course, that's all we ever talk about is we want to kind of just make this a full-time thing where, we're promoting the books and just touring and just doing public speaking stuff. If I can make that my life, dude, I'd be all over that, man. I'm telling you. So, but yeah.
I'll send you some. I'll get it put in play. That's why I wanted to create the, once the agency or the business itself is actually developed, utilizing the ChristopherHoyer.com, that'll be basically the hub to kind of go towards, the books, whether it be for you, Natalie, both, and the different, like other different agencies and things like that as well too. So.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome because I already told her that when her book starts becoming a bestseller before mine, I'm done, man. We're out. So I throw her ass out of the house. So.
Oh, hey, and speaking of that, just the other day, I found her Good Morning America clip.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. It's good stuff, man.
She's on Kelly Clarkson too, right? So.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was on there. I think it was a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago now. So. In fact, because we're in San Diego, we're supposed to just drive up to LA to be in the studio. And then the COVID shit came on board, and then they just said, yeah, sorry, we can't have you in the studio. So she had to do it all virtual, which is still pretty cool, but still, it's like, well, anyway. But
yeah, because I mean, it's things like, especially like with the funding, because with the different agencies, to where we have to, or the agencies, especially on spending budgets, the end of the year is always the last quarter is always a good time to hammer a lot of the different agencies, because the budget, they have to spend that money before the end of the year, and there's like the rollover money and things like that. So that's when they just start spending it on anything, basically. Like, that's how you get those clowns that come in there that are just repeating somebody else's fucking courses. It's like,
yeah. And then that depends on how they're going to be funded for the following year too, right? If they don't spend all that money, then they don't get the same amount the next year, right? So
yeah, because it's like, well, hey, obviously you didn't need this funding, and the rollovers and things like that. That's why a lot of agencies will do their little hiring spikes at the end of the year. That way, the next year it's like, well, hey, we've increased, our personnel by X amount of, officers, whatever the case may be, or staff, or whatever the case is. So, that funding and stuff like that rolls over, which, I always pay attention to everything. So,
oh yeah.
Well, spent through July, no funds, so husband and I are paying for his training on our dime. Are you able to see the comments?
Let me see here.
Here, hold on, let me go back to this one real quick.
Got a whole bunch now, shit. So.
Okay, yeah, the comments thing, because I made it available so that you can actually see them as well too. I know Allie's
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, do you know Allie?
I don't think I do. No.
All right, well, so Allie, if you're still with us, if you can either put it on here, or you can private message myself or Chris, and I'll get you some of the grant information over to kind of help you guys out with that as well too. And even if your husband, his agency and things like that, we can kind of get it to the to pass on through there for like the funding and things like that. But see, there's going to be a catch to that. As long as Chris is one of the ones that they're bringing in, I'll help get that grant. If Chris isn't a part of the deal's off the table. I'm just playing, but extortion.
Yeah, right. See.
No, but no, I mean,
at least so
Yeah, it's the whether it's getting hub units and things like that, or actually going inside agencies. But that's like the public speaking things, just like these symposiums and things like that. That's what that's how I study. That's how I do all my businesses and everything else too. Is I'll go and plant myself in places to kind of see how they function. It's how I started my nonprofits. It's how I do this right here and stuff like that, to kind of find out what's lacking, what's needed, and you're that missing link in so many different areas. So
yeah, I'm trying to you already know. I'm trying to just get the word out there, and this thing in September, we haven't even started talking about money yet. And do I want to get paid for it? Yeah, in theory, sure, it'd probably be all right, but that's still not the point. I really don't care. If I got to come out of pocket and make it a business write-off, so be it. Because, like I said, man, if I can,
that's why you got me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Like I keep saying. So, but if I can just get one guy to change his tune and save a life, or even two, then shit, man, it's well worth it for me. So, but
it's a ripple in individuals' lives and things like that. It's like when so many different things, to where whether it be a tragedy and everything else too. Sometimes it's that blessing that kind of pushes things forward. But the impact that we make on another's life and things like that, it's kind of it spills over into the next. And then so like Allie just made that comment about a very small county in Oregon. And then the husband was lateraled over to Hugh Farrell's office over 19 years with a huge budget to no budget in the county that they're in now,
right.
And especially the northwestern state. And I know Chris Gregorio could actually account for that as well too. Where the funding up there in these northwest states are just they're cutting and cutting and cutting, and it's like you can't cripple something and expect any kind of return. All of a sudden, you see crime rates on the rise, and it's like, yeah, just keep taking more money, you fucking clowns. It makes no sense. They they want the services, but they don't want to pay for it. It's just insane.
Wonder why the crime rate up, Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to be a part of a really big agency, so that helped me tremendously. That was never an issue with us at all, because we always knew that we always had what we wanted. The issues for us came in with our uniform committee type people that were like, well, you guys don't need this, you don't need that. Okay, but you're sitting on the fourth floor telling us what we do or don't need. You haven't been on the street in 25 years, so what the hell do you know? So, but I mean, that's a rabbit hole. I mean, I can tell you all kinds of bad stuff, and I don't want to badmouth my agency. They're actually really good for the most part, but
it goes back to the whole thing though about the keeping the silence. Sometimes you can't keep patting somebody on the back saying good job when it's not a fucking good job. So sometimes hearing those things wakes some of the agencies up, or wakes the officers up, or kind of like going in and you doing what you do. Sometimes that person hearing that, again, the shock value, some agencies thinking that it's not affecting things, and it's like superiors, like your first experience, overhearing them saying certain things about rookie, they don't realize how that affects the morale, if not like the complexity of the whole agency as a whole. So it's not like you have to bash somebody, but in the same sense, the negatives are just as important to be expressed as the positives.
Yeah, and depending on the circumstances, I mean, if it's the bosses saying that, they don't care. All they care about is collecting their freaking, their paychecks and getting promoted again. So it's like, all right, I get it. Unfortunately, a lot of guys lose sight of what their purpose is, which I think we talked about that last week, where, I bring guys on board and I said, hey man, go back and read your oath of office and remember why you're doing this, and if that doesn't do it for you, then go find something else within your agency if you can. And if you still can't find that love again, then just go take a couple months off if you can. If you can't do that, maybe just seriously time to start moving on to something else, because dude, after all the time on, even still now, after being through all the shit that I've been through, I've still got a very positive outlook on our community. And I've never, for a little short time after Dave, I lost it, of course, but so many guys lose sight of that and then they never get it back. It's like, yeah, but don't forget, man. You're lucky to be able to wear that badge at all, man. So that's a big deal.
Well, that's a great point though, because I know you and I have spoke about this before, to where, it's if I have my passion joining, law enforcement, because you're wanting to make a difference and, heighten the community. But after just seeing the worst of the worst, the worst of the worst, the worst of the worst, day after day after day after day after day, it's like you kind of lose sight of the good in humanity. And it's kind of like, hey, what is this for? That's what, what Natalie does about the nothing but love notes and everything, is to where motherfuckers need to hear sometimes that, hey, thank you, or because it's not done enough. So, people subconsciously are like, is it even noticed what I'm doing? Yeah. Am I making a difference? And it's just that because you don't see the good being done because you're always running into the negatives, and so it's always good to just have that somebody, especially when it's a stranger, saying, hey, I recognize what you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a small gesture goes a long way.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I was inspired by Natalie's whole concept. My thing the other day about you can change somebody's life by simple gestures and things like that. How just telling somebody thank you can alter that.
You've heard her story. A few of the things that we talked about, but some of the stuff that she does is just, it just brings you to your knees, man. You're like, oh my God. I had no idea that it was gonna be that impactful. So I'm always encouraging her, like, hey, look, there's a couple of vets over there, a couple of officers over there, whatever else, but go grab them up. She's like, oh, well, no bullshit. You got to do it. This is what you're doing. Nobody else. That's not true. There are lots of people doing it, but nobody's got that patent, if you will, like you do. So you need to, and it's no secret, man. I guarantee there's been probably hundreds and hundreds of guys that have probably been on that edge. They're like, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? And they get that freaking note, and then they're like, well, maybe I'll just go for one more day, and then that day turns into something better, So I think she's doing more to save lives than even I am, which is a freaking huge thing. So.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day about what she does and stuff like that, because it was after the conversation I had with you about how I have all these different like the places that do these like little painted rocks and they go put them in the parks and stuff, and about the idea about doing the same thing of like what Natalie does. And so I was telling them like about the thank you notes and everything and the love notes. Like, well, I don't know any law enforcement officers, or I don't know. It's like veterans or things like that. I'm like, especially like old school veterans. They take pride in. You could just walk to a grocery store and see somebody wearing a veteran ball cap. It's like
all the time.
It's like, it's not hard to find somebody, and you don't know anybody that's law enforcement. Fucking go to the agency yourself. I'm sure you got one, or the fire. It's like, it's comical in a sense, but excuses.
All the time. We'll be just driving to a parking lot, and she'll just see I won't even see it. She'll be like, yeah, it's a Gold Star family or Purple Heart or whatever, or just a veteran or whatever it is. And I'm like, how in the hell did you see that from like 27 rows away? She's got an eye for it.
She's got that radar like.
Yeah, dude, I can spot somebody doing a drug deal, but she can spot free license plates and veterans and shit.
But it's like, like I was telling them, I said, well, that's the whole fucking point of it, is that you don't have to know somebody. The random act is what makes it. Oh, that's what my post was. I was trying to find the words of it, but how you can change somebody's life or life changing by just a random act, and it's just a complete stranger can impact somebody more than you just telling your loved one or friends or family that, oh, hey, thank you for what you do. When a stranger walks up to you and said, "Oh, hey, Chris, hey, thank you for what you do," or
you would be amazed. Especially the Korean and Vietnam guys. Those guys want to talk. They do, man. It's unbelievable.
That was one of the most vicious mental and physical wars of all time. As far as in the disrespect that a lot of them had because of it being a political war, and I don't want to get into all that stuff, but it's they have a lot going on upstairs, and that's a simple gesture again, just you turn somebody's life around. It's a ripple effect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've got story after story that I've seen in person from her handing out notes to myself too, where I'm like, holy shit, man. It's a little bit more strange for me to do it because they're like, yeah, dude, I don't go that way. But when she gives it to him, it's a little bit different, But she nailed it on the head a couple of months ago. She goes, you realize that the law enforcement of today it's a mirror of the Vietnam vets of yesterday. I'm like, fuck, yeah, exactly right. Because we're going through the exact same thing.
About it like that, but that's fucking spot on though. When you know what I mean, the reality of it.
It is, and that hit me. I'm like, wow. That was so profound. I said, yeah. You couldn't be more right. Because, it's, we all know history repeats itself. It's a generational thing. And they need somebody to point the finger at, and it just happens to be us right now. Then it was the Vietnam guys. Next week it's going to be somebody else, probably, hopefully. But you get the
whatever fits the political agenda.
So, but anywho, so you want to do some reading, or what do you think? I don't know. Think tonight's
I want to do some listening. You're doing the reading.
All right, I can do that. So really quick, I want to tell that story about the video that I sent you. I won't get into the whole thing. I'll just give you the kind of basic rundown version of it. But
of all the guns and the ammo that was in that video, it's amazing that the thing that really caught my attention is that they had a fucking shovel.
Probably for me, they're going to bury my ass out in the backyard, man. So
that's crazy. It's like.
So that was the
how far on were you when that happened? Was that the beginning, or was that like midway through, or how far were you in your career when that happened?
So you remember the three major events where Dave was killed. That was the beginning of the third event that right before Dave happened. So, because you had the kid that ended up killing himself, the 8-year-old, and then two of my buddies got into a wicked nasty gunfight. And then the search warrant that I had to do, well, that was that search warrant that I had to write. And that was on March 30th of 2016. And then so you fast forward to May, that's how close they happened back to back. So the way that whole thing went down was I literally responded to just a radio call. And I was far away. I was really far away. And I wasn't even in that precinct area. I was still the first one there, driving like 20 miles to get to this call because it sounded like a pretty good call. It was it came out as a shooting, and the dispatcher kept relaying that it's a good victim. And I'm like, okay, well, with that area, that's kind of rare that we have good victims over there. So long story short, I get there, and I don't find the victim because officers are just coming on scene the same time I am as I'm rounding the corner to where they put the plate out for the car. And sure as shit, because of who I am, I find the car in the driveway. And I set up, I'm like, hey, this is what I got. And, it's a shooting. So we need to do all the big shit, right? So I'm locking down streets and I got the helicopter and I got guys coming around and looking at it from a geographical standpoint. I'm on the east side of the house. It's an east facing house and I'm facing westbound. I'm on the curb lane or in the curb of the house across the street, if you will. And so I've got units that are beside the house off to the west of me. And it's basically an intersecting street. So the house that they're next to, they can't see anything to their right, if you will, to my left. I know it's kind of hard to kind of figure. So I'm looking straight ahead. Off to my left, I see the officers over there behind this huge giant tree. All right. So the suspect, as it turned out, comes to the door. She's got a metal grate style door, like a security door. And it's got no glass. It's just basically just the bars, and there's a curtain. And so when she comes out, she comes to the door and she basically pulls the curtain back. And I recognize because she gave the perfect description. She's wearing like a red shirt and black shorts or whatever it was. And so I get out of the Jeep and I get her at gunpoint. I got the rifle. I'm like, hey, Phoenix PD, come outside right now. She's like, yeah, no. And I'm probably 25 yards away or something, 30 yards away, and completely 100% exposed out into the fucking middle of the street. Right? Okay. So she's like, yeah, I'm not coming out. Close the blinds. And I'm like, hey, she's not coming out. So I retreated back to cover. And then I find out later on she was actually standing on a 9mm handgun, not the shooting weapon. We actually found that gun in her car. She went through probably 5 rounds and shot a victim just walking down the street, literally just walking down the street, just opened fire on this drive-by and ended up shooting her like 3 times. She ended up having a stovepipe or a class 3 malfunction, whatever it was. Anyway, the gun jammed. So she stuffed it in between the seats. Later on, when I wrote the search warrant, went back, found the gun. But so she's not coming out, blah, blah, blah. So finally, one of the other homeowners comes out of the house. They grab onto him and they go and they call her. She comes out. They're the only 2 inside the house. So we go in there as a team, waiting for our SWAT guys to show up. They're not coming, whatever. So we got to go clear the house ourselves. So we go in there, we clear it. I know that's a whole nother thing, whatever. We clear the house with like 4 or 5 guys, whatever. So I went back later on. That's a video that I recorded. And you saw they've got AR-15s and SKS rifles lined up all around the windows with drum magazines. They had 1,500 rounds. Say again? Well, the problem was, from where I was, they could have, it would have been all day long. They could have freaking lit me up through those windows, Why they didn't do it, I don't know. I still to this day don't know. Fast forward, the guy had calculations for ammonium nitrate, and he had the anarchist cookbook. He had 1,500 rounds of ammunition, had a manifesto all written out. It was freaking classic terrorist fucking situation, right? So I went back to write the search warrant. She got booked into jail, and the guy that was there at the house it was all his guns. Everything that was in that house was all his. He owned the house, but he lived there. And so it was the end of shift, and I find out that the guy made threats to kill us all after I had already gone. I went to go write the search warrant, came back about 3 hours later, and when I get back there, there's one guy, an FTO, and his OIT that are at the house. I'm like, where's everybody at? I'm like, oh, they all took off. And I said, well, did somebody book the dude? And they're like, no, they let him go. Okay, so everything you just heard me say, and he made threats to kill us, and you guys let him walk. Why? Well, because it's the end of shift and they wanted to go home. Okay.
It's not
Then
funny, but I mean that's.
Well, then I found out that the guy came back and he was standing across the street. So what do they can't like go and find this dude. They gotta secure the house still, so they can't do anything. The guy's yelling from across the road, making more threats. Couldn't get any more units out there to help him out. So of course I'm in the middle of writing a fucking search warrant. I can't go out there. I don't know anything about this anyways. This is a really long story, I know. So I fast forward. The dude ends up not going to jail. We secure the house. I went the very next day. I went straight to the FBI. I'm like, hey, you guys need to fucking pay attention to this dude. Oh yeah. We're all over it. And I gave him everything I had. I'm like, here's a copy of the search warrant. Here's all the shit that we seized. I spent it was the end of the day for me. I didn't get out of there until like 2:00 in the morning. Got up the next day. Finished up all the impounding, all the whole entire thing. That was the day before when this whole thing was going all down. That's when my two buddies got in that really nasty gunfight that I couldn't be there for. So after I got done impounding all the shit, I went straight to the FBI. I'm like, hey, here, please pay attention to this guy. Yeah, we're on it. And I talked to the OIC or the AIC, whatever, the agent in charge. And fast forward, nothing ever happened. Okay. Fast forward, now we're in June after Dave. So this is probably the first or second week of June now. So I've been home for 4 or 5 weeks trying to figure out what's going on. My most trusted ally calls me on the phone. He goes, hey, did you hear what happened? And I'm like, oh, God, no. Now what? Well, the guy that was supposed to be arrested that didn't get arrested drove down to another city toward the border, did a home invasion and killed 3 people. Okay. Comes back to our side of town, and right on the border, Glendale and Phoenix, he's in a Walmart parking lot in the very, very back. You know, they got this huge warehouse-style parking lots in the back. He's all the way in the back someplace, and one of the employees called on a 647 or suspicious person call, still talking radio code. So Glendale sergeant rolls up, and as he's getting out of his car, the dude reaches out and freaking cranks off a round and goes right through the guy's fucking windshield and misses his headrest by like an inch. Holy shit. So he fires off a run around, drops the gun, gets taken into custody. Then they found out because he was like completely stoned on meth. I mean, like out of control. They had to put a team on him for like 3 days or some shit. And so now I've got all that weighing on my mind. And it's like, wait a second. So I got the 8-year-old. I got the guy that was supposed to be in jail. I got my 2 buddies that got into a gunfight. Now I just found out this guy killed 3 people. I have the FBI that fucking failed. So, basically left me hanging out to dry. And then Dave gets killed on top of all that. I'm like, and then I found out, again, he killed 3 people. I'm like, yeah. So needless to say, I was not quite in my right frame of mind when this whole thing went down. So that was basically.
See, that's one of the things that leads into the not really survivor's guilt, but in the same sense, it's like, especially when you knew that you took all precautions, and that's one of the horrors of how law enforcement as a whole kind of works, because the civilian sector doesn't understand how they let said subjects operate or exist. But then you have especially when you come to the feds or anybody else, to where we have to let these people out there to lead us to who is the real culprit. It's like, well, he's a real culprit too. Like you said, now there's 3 dead people because of the fact that whatever reason why. It's like, oh yeah, okay, almost like they're just blowing you off. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll look into that. We got bigger, better things to look into other than somebody having armor-piercing rounds.
Well, it would have been different if I had just gone up there and been like a whistleblower and go, hey, I got this guy down here. He's kind of suspicious. But, I've got all this evidence. I've got everything that you need. This is a prime picture of what a terrorist looks like, And sure shit, he goes down and were they probably drug dealers too? Yeah, more like sound like a drug rip to me, near as I could tell. But neither here nor there, man. I don't want those guys' death on my conscience. I mean, shit. But I mean, on some level, I had nothing out of it. I didn't really have any control over that, but at the same time, it was still my investigation. So it's like, fuck. So
Well, so you don't. I mean, you brought an important aspect up though. The guys where it was the change of shift to where they didn't want to serve certain things or extend that shift, but you don't know how many criminals have walked, or because the case is thrown out because somebody was at the end of their shift. didn't want to finalize paperwork or things were processed because somebody was rushing through and trying to get out. And that's such a valid point to where it's the, people walking around like this all day to where, my shift don't end until everything's, said and done, rather than you're not looking at a time clock. You make sure that everything is done how it's done, because it's the, ultimately, now all of a sudden, a case is discharged, dismissed, whatever the case is, and that person hits the streets again. Now they may have that vendetta or that vindictive mind where they cause a greater harm than what the initial, infraction was. And it's a dangerous game to where, just because I don't feel like being here right now, you shouldn't have came in the first place. It's just.
I mean, I'm sure I've been there too, where I'm like, I just don't feel like messing with this guy for whatever reason. But when you've got all that evidence stacked up against one guy, that's where I had a problem with it. And I'm like, all right, look, guys, I know it wouldn't be that hard to grab somebody else. Just hook on to this dude, hang on to him for now, get the paperwork started, and then it sounds horrible to say this way, dump it on somebody else. Yeah. You guys mind finishing up this process really quick so we can go, 10-7 or whatever.
It's like they looked at it like you gave them blank sheets of paper rather than everything, It's like,
yeah, and dude, I was terrified when I went through that house, man. I mean, anytime I see the anarchist cookbook, I get scared, I get nervous. I'm like, yeah, that's no joke. I mean, that's some heavy shit, right? So, but whatever. Okay, what do you think here? Do some.
Yes, sir.
I think I was on a roll there, so we'll see what happens with this one. So.
It'll pan out. I got faith.
All right, you got the title for this one? You know
I know we're on chapter 10. I don't have my book with me right now.
What, dude? Come on. All right.
Mother house, man. It's down south.
All right. Fair enough. All right. A lot of these titles for the chapters got changed, so I don't remember if I titled this one or Natalie did, but this one's called "Calling the Shots," chapter 10. It's only 2.5 pages or 3, whatever it is. So, okay. So I'm going to say during the hiring process and surely in the academy, recruits are given a handful of scenarios that are designed to make them uncomfortable to see if they can determine the right course of action. The most common, as far as I know, is the 11 p.m. traffic stop sign violation. Come to find out that your mom behind the wheel and she's been consuming alcohol. What do you do? Obviously, the point of this puzzle is to prepare you for when that type of scenario happens in real life. And believe me, it will happen. Personally, 2 scenarios come to mind. The first one was not a huge deal as these things go. But the second scenario was tough. Ugh. And, I've had guys tell me like, yeah, man, I'm going to arrest my mom. I'm like, dude, you're not going to arrest your fucking mom, whatever, unless she's abandoned you or some shit like that. Give me a break, man. Come on. So anyway, so yeah. So, all right. So first scenario took place on a normal day in the hood. I was on patrol and I saw a couple of dudes begging to be stopped. They tried to elude me, but I found them. However, because they quickly exited the vehicle, I was unable to identify who was driving. I got one guy stopped on my own. A couple of squad mates walked up a few minutes later with the second guy. My heart sank when I realized it was my best friend's brother. Unfortunately, by now, my peers had already figured out that he had 4 outstanding warrants. Why me? I radioed my boss and ran down the scenario with him, not necessarily to dodge responsibility, but to, yes, I'll say, put the burden on him so that I wouldn't be forced to arrest my friend's brother. It was kind of a dick move, but I was in charge and I needed someone over my head to make the bigger decision. I couldn't determine who was driving. Regardless, they both ran from the police and my buddy's brother had warrants. My boss didn't understand and asked, what do you want to do? I think he needs to go, I replied. My boss agreed, and for my sake, asked one of my squad mates to handle the paper. Pretty easy as it turned out. And as far as my buddy's brother, he apologized and admitted he needed to clear up his warrants. That made things slightly easier, but not so much when I had to tell my best friend what had happened. Yeah, that one sucked, man. I was not happy about that, but yeah, what are you going to do? It's just one of those things where, you're out there long enough, you're going to run into your freaking neighbor or a guy that from your kid's school or something. You're like, oh, shit, here we go, but even in the big city, so.
Well, it does become difficult, though. I mean, especially, that's like, especially if you have to pass notification onto family. I don't care what it is, it's like, and especially when family, friends, or a loved one sees, someone in uniform walking up to the door, it's never really a good thing. regardless of how you look at it. But I mean, when you know him personally and things like that, and handling the situation, because you did the right thing. I mean, it really wasn't a dick move, because there's like that flip side of the coin to where it can cause contention to where said individual may expect leniency or something else, coming from friend of and things like that. So I think you did the right thing. I mean, it's a hard decision in the moment and stuff too, but
I felt like shit for having to do it, but I mean, dude, you got 4 warrants for your arrest, man. I can't. I mean, my discretion is pretty much out the window at that point. It's like, fuck. All right, but luckily I was still pretty young on the department, and I was still new and unknowing at the time. So it all worked out the way it was supposed to. But that's just one of those things where, I had been trained on it and thought about it, but until you're put in that situation, you're like, oh man, immediately you recognize the guy. You're like, oh shit, what am I gonna do about this now? But I don't know.
Well, it's on a lot of interest questions as well too, though. If would you find favoritism? Would you be able to arrest family, friends if a cause was pulled? And it's like, well, everybody's going to say yes, but like once you get put into that situation, it's no longer on paper me having to, answer an entrance exam or an entrance, questionnaire. Like, oh yeah, okay, I said I would, but hey, mom, turn around.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, man. Even regardless of your circumstances that way. I mean, unless you're out for vengeance with your own family, kind of a thing. But anyway, but the second scenario I'm going to read is, I mean, it's like the stuff of nightmares. So,
already know.
All right. So, second scenario is one I wish I could erase from my memory. It was 10:30 p.m. on a weeknight. There were 2 cars on the road. Me in a fully marked patrol car, and the drunk who flew past me, driving at least 20 over the speed limit. It was nighttime, but the road was well lit. I made the stop. The driver immediately admitted to drinking, and it just got worse from there. The driver, a local firefighter, had a 6-year-old in the car and had 2 prior convictions for driving under the influence, and he was on double secret probation from his department, and was just 6 months away from his 20-year anniversary for a full pension. You cannot dream up a worse scenario. This one was not going to go away. I wanted to ask how many times he had gotten lucky and why he was at it again with his child in the car. Some will never learn. That was a tough trial, but at least he, and more importantly, his child are alive today. So I kept that one really short on purpose, but dude, you've already been convicted twice. You've gotten away with this how many times? And now you're doing it again with your kid in the car. Dude, you're never going to learn. You are never going to learn. And I felt like an asshole again for having to drop the dude for, he's 6 months from his pension, and all he had to do was keep his nose clean for however long it was. He had 6 months to go. You still can't do it. I mean, that's one of those where, my integrity had to step up. I'm like, look, man, I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. If this was anybody else, it'd be the exact same circumstances. Another officer, my brother, if I had one, or whatever else. It's like, dude, you're going to kill somebody if you haven't already, and gotten away with it because your department's going to back you up. But those days are over now, man. So
yeah, so I mean, and that's a good point as well too, because it's really valid when you look at old school law enforcement, compared to like today and everything as well too. To where it was hey, I have your back regardless, but in the same sense, when that it's just going to be a matter of time before, something happens to where his pension and everything else essentially would be irrelevant anyway, because, it could have escalated, to become something worse. And especially, anytime you add a child, a kid, I mean, anybody in the car, but I mean, kids kind of intensify things, but anybody else in the car, it's an innocent victim, regardless of how you look at it. And it's
and then the fact that he blows down that patrol car, it's like, dude, I mean, you're clearly that screwed up. I mean, you can't even see a patrol car and you go flying by me, at least make an attempt to freaking elude me or something, man. But he didn't even try. Didn't have a care in the world. He was so lit, man. I don't even remember what he blew, but it was pretty high. It was over 2. So, but anyway, so I think Allie's asking.
I think that's another thing too that should be nationwide. I mean, I think that should be a federal mandate rather than a state by state on like legal limits on alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that you especially on individuals that have side by side borders, to where you're in one jurisdiction, but you drive a mile down the road, you're in another jurisdiction, to where that legal limit is different. To where a drink is a drink, and legal limits shouldn't be. I shouldn't. One jurisdiction legal limit's 0.5, and the other one's 1. Like Indiana has spots to where legal limit's almost like somebody that can't even walk straight. But then you cross over. That should be it's anyway.
I thought they did that. I thought there was 0.08 across the board and 0.10 for.
No, because some states still have their own mandates, because it was at one point, can it be a federal mandate rather than state controlled agencies and things like that.
Yeah,
so because I know like Ohio had it to where it was like a 0.5, and then cross over to Indiana, and they were like I think it was like a 1 point. I think it was like 1.1 if I'm not mistaken. I might be a little off, but I'm pretty sure it was like 1.1, like down in like Lawrenceburg, Aurora, Indiana, like where it connects to Cincinnati.
I never really got into DUIs. I mean, it's very dangerous, and it needs to be done by leaps and bounds. But I would spend 6 hours on a good day on a misdemeanor. It's like, well, shit, I can spend 2 hours on a felony. So plus I just never was that. I mean, as far as testifying in court, I love testifying in court on the good stuff, chasing bad guys, jumping fences, and all that good shit. But when it came to testifying against blood alcohol content and FSTs, and I'm like, dude, I just don't have it. Probably because I just didn't have the interest. But even so, I think Allie was asking a question there. So,
yeah, she was asking about when the other officer make the arrest, but it's anybody can make the arrest. It's just like maybe working cases and things like that. So that conflict of interest, and all that other stuff too. But
right, yeah, somebody else is going to get the credit for it, if you will. But it was still, technically speaking, it wasn't my name on the booking slip afterwards. But it was still my call to, yeah. I mean, my boss turned around and put it right back on me, which was probably the right thing to do in all reality, because you get out there and you make a decision to go do something, you got to live with your decision, whatever it is. Either you take it all the way to the max, or you decide you're going to, cut the guy loose for whatever reason. Just like, unfortunately, the guys with the, that bad guy that let him go, they had to live with their consequences of letting this guy go. And truth be told, and I get it. I mean, I've used this defense too. I don't know what this guy's plan is when he leaves here. Maybe he's just having a bad day or whatever else. Okay. But, so.
No, it's one of them things though too. It's like, you let somebody slide on one thing, and it turns around and it escalates through the night or anything else like that. But sometimes though that, and again, that's that flip of the coin instance to where a gratitude because you were lenient on somebody could de-escalate what might have like progressed through the day, the night, or whatever the case may be. But then it's just some people just take it for granted or something like that. Like, oh, then they can feel untouchable. Like, oh yeah, I had a run-in before, I got let go. It ain't nothing. All of a sudden, it just happens again and again and again, and all that stuff. So,
well, I've got a few stories about that where I've cut some guys loose and been thanked for it, and I've cut guys loose, and I know that they're driving away, flipping me off, going, "Yeah, wait, good job, asshole." Okay, so a lot of that does boil down to discretion and talking to people, stuff like that, And there's been, I mean, it's 100% of the time when I don't have any discretion, when I don't have a choice. It's like, look, dude, you got to go. I can't do anything about this. You're a freaking murderer. I mean, I can't let you walk for shit like that or whatever. But so
yeah, I've always, I was trying to. I think it's been 2 years now where I was pushing and I was writing different agencies about I'm trying to get it to where just like we can print out tickets in the cars now, right? But I think, and just like, they got the scanners that can measure someone's window tint. They got the breathalyzer machines. I think that, every officer nationwide should be able to have a fingerprint machine that, is tied into the NCI database and everything else too, that can correspond somebody's ID with, if they're really in the system and things like that as well too. People were saying, well, that's because the argument was it was a violation of someone's privacy and things based on warrant. Well, I don't need a warrant to ask somebody for their driver's license, their ID, or anything else.
Right.
And it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm taking anything from you. Just run your fingerprint real quick and let me see if this matches up to the database, see if there's any kind of open warrants and things like that may not be into the system. Because for a while, the NCIC wasn't even like tied into all different agents. Some agencies, because of funding and everything else too, to where it was only like locally that they had any kind of open warrants or anything like that on individuals and things. So, and plus, like your area as well too, like in Phoenix and Arizona, to where there's so many individuals that have fake IDs, and it's a big scenario to where it's the running things through to where put your finger here and
yeah. Well, here's the thing that people forget. So it's like if you got probable cause to stop the guy, then you're probably well within your rights to go ahead and get him patted down and check him out. I mean, you can articulate it very, very simply that you need to verify his identity. If he doesn't have ID, you've got two choices. Either you go with me to the jail and I run your fingerprints that way, or I just freaking figure out who you are here. I mean, what's the difference? One way or the other. If you've got some kind of a crime that you can say I've got enough to stop this guy, you can detain him. I mean, all day long. So I mean, that's really not a question. So you would think.
It's definitely like outdated as far as like when somebody don't like match up to the picture that they gave you. Hold on a minute here. Let me make sure that this is you. But that's I really would like to see that in place. Especially with law enforcement safety and things like that as well too. I mean, they keep imposing all these other different restrictions. It's like, well, something has to be put in place to where we know at the end of the day that the right call has been made and everything else too. So,
well, there's all kinds of things that we get jammed up for, and I mean, I remember way back in the day when they changed the you weren't allowed to search somebody's car just based off a suspended license. And it's like, okay, well, if you read the actual statute, it read you must have the intent to book them into jail pending searching their car. And so that, a lot of guys, they read that way. They're like, well, if I'm not going to book the guy, I can't search his car. And not being sneaky, but my boss pointed out, he goes, okay, doesn't mean you can't change your mind. You had the intention that you're going to search the guy's car, book him into jail, and then you decided to change your mind. What's wrong with that? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of an ass backwards way to do it, but I mean, it makes sense,
Yeah,
I mean, it's one.
There's always a loophole somewhere.
That's definitely one of them. I mean, that was one that I loved. I mean, I was like, well, and more often than not, I mean, truth be told, if I had a situation where I felt like I needed to search a guy's car, more often than not, I'd find something in the car, or I'd cut him some kind of a deal or whatever else. The guy, when I told him I dropped my gun that one time, and basically I let him walk after I didn't find anything. So, but
well, that's like the agencies to where it was unethical. I'm not going to say illegal, but unethical, because to just run somebody's tags behind them, you have to have probable cause to even run their tag number, because they say that you can't pull somebody over because you ran their tag and seen that they had warrants or things like that. That you had a probable cause to even run their tags, and that's about the most ignorant thing. Because like now, our cruisers have the actual cameras on the front, because they say that in case a car is stolen or things like that, that it actually runs through the system, hits the system and things like that. It's always the arguments on the other side. That's like street cameras. They're like, oh, well, cops have to catch them in the act. It's like, get the fuck out of here. If a street camera sees somebody doing something illegal, why can't I use that? And it's like,
well, here's a quick story for us. I had one of my students in class 2 weeks ago or so, and she's arguing. She's not PD, she's security. I get it. But she's arguing that, there's no way that the cop that pulled her over could see how fast she was going because she came up behind him. And she basically said she had to go back. And I said, well, she's arguing. The whole class started getting pissed off at her. And finally, I just asked her, I said, well, were you actually speeding? Well, yeah. Well, how fast were you going? Well, I was going over 100. Well, you're guilty. I mean, you're trying to get out of something that you just fucking admitted to. So you're guilty. So what are you trying to get out of? You think just because a cop didn't catch you the right way, you're exempt or what? That doesn't work that way. No. So, and she was driving a freaking marked security car. dude, for real? I mean, you have absolutely no integrity whatsoever. So I even told that. I'm like, dude, you need to be in another line of work because this is bullshit. So, but
Well, some of the more enhanced and like the highly funded vehicles actually have it's a laser radar that is on the back of the vehicle to where it can tell that it tags. And especially if I'm driving 70 miles an hour and in my rear view I see somebody that was a mile back is now on my tail end, it's like, come on, man. It's like but anyway, so it's goofy.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've gotten away with a lot of shit, out there because riding a motorcycle and stuff. But, if I get jammed up, I get jammed up. It's like, hey, you know what? If I get pulled over doing 100 miles an hour, then, hey, sorry.
I wasn't speeding.
No, it wasn't me, man. No, you didn't catch me on radar, so it's not true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that, it's and again, they're always trying to put it in the hands of the criminal, giving them, the upper hand. It's like so many different agencies fucking did away with, they called it fucking entrapment, to where if I'm sitting in my car, if I'm sitting in my cruiser and I don't have my parking lights on, that was considered entrapment. It's like, I have to fucking let them know that I'm there. Well, why? So that it's like, if you have to catch them breaking the law of them knowing you're there. Well, what the fuck? Who's going to go rob a bank and see fucking 5 armed securities, standing at the door? They're going to fucking turn around and go out. It's like anyway, man, I could go on for days about stupid shit that's just like, then they wonder why, like, they're trying to give the criminals the upper hand. And it's just like, you shake your head like, and again, thinking about the good of humanity. And it's like, well, hey,
Well, this is what you expect out of us. You want us to catch bad guys, but you want to, lay all these rules out and tie our hands behind our back and expect us to go save the world. Well, it doesn't work that way, man. You either, don't get me wrong, we are still held to a higher standard. I get it, but we still have a duty to freaking uphold the freaking law, whether you think you're guilty or not. If you're guilty, you're guilty. Fucking take it, just fucking admit to it, so.
It's like I search a subject and he has a gun, but it was an unlawful search and seizure. So like now the gun's like inadmissible. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? He had a fucking gun. It's like, well, you didn't have probable cause to search him. It's like I seen the bulge coming out of his shirt. The fuck do you mean? It's like, anyway, man, these people are fucking clowns.
That's a whole long conversation too about shit that you're like, okay, and that's all these. I don't want to talk smack for anybody that might be listening, but defense attorneys to catch us, doing shit we're not supposed to be doing. It's like, what about your client that just went out and freaking robbed 8 people? What about what all shit he did wrong? But because I'm wearing a badge, yes, I again agree we're held to a higher standard, but that doesn't mean that this guy gets to go break the law and now I get caught because I got I missed some kind of a procedural thing or whatever else. Now this guy gets to walk. Okay.
A typo.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen people walk off of a fucking typo.
Yeah.
It's like,
hear this. Check this shit out. You'll love this story. I won't get into details, but 2 of my buddies got into a really nasty gunfight, 2011, and they had an initial appearance hearing. They wanted to freaking let this guy go because, again, they didn't have probable cause to stop the guy. Okay, well, they didn't have to have probable cause. They had plenty of reasonable suspicion when they went to go talk to the guy. He took off running. He threw something in the water. They couldn't tell what it was. That's enough to freaking make a stop. And then he pulls out a gun and shoots them both, and they survived it somehow. And my first thought was, let this guy go. Let him get back on the street because he's not going to get a second chance, And how this guy survived the first gunfight, I'll never know. Unbelievable. I am not kidding you, dude. 223 right to the freaking neck right here. And went all the way through, missed everything, came out the side of his arm, and he survived. I'm like, oh my God.
Didn't you graze the spine or anything?
Nothing. It missed all the vitals. It missed his freaking carotid, missed the vagus nerve, missed his spine, missed everything. I'm like, how is that possible? Fucking Dave gets a tiny little nick off of a door and gets hit to head and fucking done. I'm like, dude, come on, are you kidding me? So,
well, that's like that. The officer that was driving, his patrol was the motorcycle, and a DUI wrong way driver hit him and killed him. And DUI. You see it all the time where the fucking criminal just, killed people, walk away unscathed, and it's just like,
all the time. All the time. Yeah. It's I mean, frustrating is not the word for it. It's just aggravating, but
that's what makes, Tyler's story so fucking encouraging, and like, just keep going. I can't wait till that full recovery's done. He graduated to recovery. So
you heard he went to rehab, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He graduated up to recovery now. He's going to be stepping out, man. That's going to be a story to be told there. Plus the, kind of enhance everything too on just that's the best like anything. Haha, bitch, I survived.
Yeah. Well, that client's going to get out of jail again, and I mean that's one of those things where I'm like, all right, you know what, come face me and we'll see what happens. You're not going to get another chance. You're done this time. So, but we're going to be out there next week, and Nat's got just a stack of freaking notes this high, which is going to be awesome. So we're hoping to just give them directly to his wife and him directly. But if we can't, we'll just make sure they get to him somehow. But that's going to be pretty awesome, man. I can't wait to see the looks on their faces, So
I just actually bought some cards today that I'm going to be filling out and sending out to her. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I just got the box up from today. And they say grateful.
Oh yeah, nice.
Little Hallmark cards.
That's
so
exactly
I get to fill that whole entire inside out.
There you go, man.
Mail if you can hand deliver them for us.
If you could see everything off to my right hand side, I've got I don't even know, probably 4,000 notes sitting right over here that she's got collected over the years, and it's amazing. But it's funny because today we were out doing some stuff, and I go, "Hey, there's a U.S. Army vet car." She's like, "Well, I don't have any notes with me," so I'm sure I'll get a note from that one too. But it's like, you're like the worst note lady ever. What the hell is wrong with you, man? We go out someplace, you don't bring any notes with you, So, oh well, that's all right.
Tarsha's got to get like one of them shoe polish, like the sponges, and start putting it on people's cars.
Oh, she does.
Other cars. Window.
Oh yeah, she's gone to the point of actually putting them in Ziploc bags and all kinds of shit like that. It's pretty awesome, man. So, but I told her we need to get one of those things like a slingshot, so we're driving by and we just be sitting next to them and going down the freeway and just fling them over to them or some shit, But anyway.
Well, they got some things for like playing cards that kind of shoot the cards out.
Yeah.
Kind of like the little same thing, or
yeah.
They have them dollar bill guns.
You
ever seen them?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Shoot the dollar bills out.
Yeah.
And have the little cards in them.
I'm always thinking of some way. We actually
awesome.
Last summer we followed a guy. He had a Purple Heart plate, and we followed him all the way around the neighborhood and followed him for like 3 miles, and finally stopped at 7-Eleven. I actually jumped out and handed him the note, and he wrote her actually a really nice letter later on. He got back at her on Facebook or something. I can't remember what it was, and that was one of those great stories that she can tell better than I can, because I'm like the delivery guy, and then she gets all the accolades, which is exactly what I want, of course, But anyway, yeah. So she's
selfless act for the most rewarding.
It's, man, I tell you what, and I feel guilty almost sometimes because it's not selfless, because we've made a ton of friends and just gotten, an unbelievable amount of feedback. She's got people literally all over the world that are jumping in, helping out, and, mailing her pre-done notes or notes like the ones you got where they're just blanks. And she's getting boxes and boxes of stuff all the time. And she had me writing them for a while. And my handwriting is so unbelievably atrocious. It's like, yeah, it's, clearly this is from a boy. You probably don't want to get a freaking love note from a dude, not the way that I write them anyway. I've
Yeah,
got
but
the.
no, because what I want to do is because I'm going to that symposium in March 10th and 11th up there in Chicago, and that's one of the things that I want to do is just have fucking hundreds of them, put together to kind of hand out to everybody that's attending up there and stuff like that too. So,
well, when we do ours, I mean, she's got them just like laid out on the table at our booths or whatever else, and it's really neat when people just come and grab them. But it's 10 times better when she actually just hands them to them. Here, hey, this is for you, kind of a thing, and they're like, "Oh, what is this?" And they read it. And, she got all kinds of pictures of people where we catch them later on, and we got pictures of them reading it in their car or whatever else, and super, super neat, man. It's like the greatest thing ever. So,
well, it's I use Vistaprint for like my like logos for like websites for stationery, and I'm printing off a bunch of I'm having some made like right now as we speak for like has like the nothing but love notes at the top thing, but like it being a whole thank you like stationery and stuff like that to actually kind of hand out and have people fill out and stuff like that too.
She'll love it, man. I'm surprised she's not on board right now, coming out here to jump on that one. So maybe she will.
Her little hashtag nothing but love notes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely become a thing, man. Pretty cool. So.
It is. I mean, but it needs to be done though, and it's just that, like I said, I mean, I was the whole like writing I did, but you can change someone's life just by simple gestures and things like that, to where it's just a random act. I mean, nobody expects it, and again, like the redundancy of doing the job and seeing the worst of the worst every day, just a simple thank you, especially by a stranger, you can impact somebody's life fucking tremendously. I mean, the ripple effect of that, and even if they just smile for a minute, that's a minute smile that they wouldn't have had otherwise, so.
Well, that's the part that's frustrating for me, because all this effort that I put into it, and creating PowerPoints and speaking and all this kind of shit, she writes a note and freaking hands it to some guy and saves his life. I'm like, God damn it, I'm putting all this shit into it. I'm traveling.
I can't even get the turn around.
Yeah. But no, actually, it turns out, I mean, I had no idea. We make a really good team that way, because I do the stuff on my side, and especially now when she knows, like, next week we're probably gonna have at least 25 dudes out there. So she's probably already got those written, and when I start doing my speech, I'll introduce her, and then she'll end up passing notes around to everybody, and it's always just a good thing, man. So
yeah, but see, I mean, you downplay yourself a lot, man. Again, you must fucking wake up eating humble pie or some shit, man. But I mean, it's because you're in, what you do is almost like a blind act that you'll never really see a true return unless somebody comes back to you and tells you about how it impacted them and changed them and things like that. Somebody can take what you have, and even though they may be seeming distant, while they're sitting in the class, whatever the case may be, maybe that same person that you think sitting there in outer space is actually really consuming everything and adapting things in to where you've altered, what they do every day. And it does kind of suck though, because you really don't see that transition or see anything like that. But I know it's nice when guys come up to you like after the class and kind of talk to you about, what you heard and stuff. But I'm certain that there's fucking plenty of people that have like heard, whether it was just one thing that kind of altered the way or, made them self-aware. It's kind of like we were talking about the other day about, how can you not know, where your sidearm's at, opposed to the taser or anything else. Just little things to where it makes them aware, something that was subconscious is now, frontal lobe thought, so.
Well, I mean, no true. I mean, no bullshit. I do secretly, I love that stuff when people come up to me and ask me questions. And I never expect it. And when it does happen, I try to take as much advantage of it as possible, just to be sure that, I make my point if I can and get it across to them, and also let them know, hey, in addition to everything that you heard, please reach out to me, because I've got a whole bunch more information that I just can't share because I just don't have time during the PowerPoint stuff. But that's why it's almost insane for me to put my email in my freaking book, so the whole freaking world's got access to me that way. But I truly want people to just say, hey, what can you do for me? Or what do you think about this?
Well, that's like with the email I created, because I have the Chris at ChristopherHoyer.com. I have the Natalie at ChristopherHoyer.com. Then I got the info at ChristopherHoyer.com. So the info ad could, catch all of that can, response email. You can actually respond in time, so you're not like blown up with things like that. But it's, I've said this to you before too, that start putting people on the spot. If you're about to run a scenario, just pulling that person that looks like they're in fucking outer space. Yeah. Hey, Officer Hoyer. Hey, let's run this scenario real quick. What would be your first, action? How would you do this right? And yeah, I mean, but put people on spot, and it's just that, and get them engaged and shit like that, because then it's just like, keep people on their toes, and nobody wants to hear that they're wrong. But, it's like you always back things up. I'm not saying it's the way, but it's a way.
Right.
But in the same sense, like, hey, have you ever thought about, this scenario? And, you hearing that and you being as cognizant as you are because you've fucking ran into so many different scenarios that, well, what if this happened? And it throws that, well, I never fucking thought about that.
Right.
Because I only read this in a textbook. I've never really had to experience this. I read it in a textbook back here. And, according to protocol, what I would do is first, it's like, okay, well, what about this scenario?
Well, that's one of the things I talk about with my kids now. I call my kids, of course, but I talk about that very unfortunate shooting down in Arizona, wherever it was, the guy in the wheelchair, and exactly what you're talking about. I think the officer that shot him, God bless him for what he did, but holy shit, dude, he sees knife, he thinks deadly force. That's his only thought process. And yeah, clearly if you kick a dude over, and that was the first thing I thought of, kick the guy over so he can't go anywhere, kind of a thing. Yeah, that's going to look bad too, but at least the guy's still alive, versus, you freaking come around the corner and you smoke the guy. It's like, dude, he's in a freaking wheelchair. What can you really do, Now, clearly I didn't know the circumstances of the whole thing, but surely you had other options instead of freaking dumping 7 or 8 rounds into this guy. But, and of course I hate Monday morning quarterbacking this kind of shit, but the point is, it's like you got to have some outside thinking versus, like I was just watching a couple of my buddies the other day. They were trying to negotiate with a guy with a gun, and he kept yelling at him. I think I counted like 19 times. I told him to put the gun down, drop the gun. Dude, the dude ain't going to drop the gun once or twice, maybe. I mean, even people with guns, for me, got very, very, very extremely few any kind of negotiation as far as dropping the weapon. Then it's going to transition to something else.
Chapter 9, ask, tell, make.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, I mean, how much time are you going to give this cat, right? And I mean, and I mean, my agency was really good about teaching negotiations, but unfortunately, these guys, they haven't been through enough scenarios. They haven't played that what if game. They haven't gone through the simulators and the Milo machines and these kinds of things to where they've had those 15 or 20 or 30 different types of scenarios where they figure out that, if you change your tactics and you change, your tone of your voice, you change your angle on this guy or stuff like that, that could change everything versus drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun, bang. Well, fuck, did you even try anything else? I mean, no, you didn't, because you get sucked into it. And believe me, I've been there 1,000 times, until I was able to start, kind of getting my battle rhythm down. But and that's
actually kind of hard to do, though, really. I mean, because it's the, again, going back to the complacency aspect, and individuals that only do their fucking training or like retraining once a year.
Right. Yeah.
Battle mode's fucking never there, unfortunately, for a lot of people, and it's, and that's why, again, you keeping people on their toes and, keeping it sharp and adding that shock value, creates everything.
Yeah, the shock value definitely is there. And, I mean, and I sometimes I do forget, because I was picking that scenario and they're in like a Circle K or 7-Eleven style parking lot or whatever. And they've got a good configuration on the guy, and they're doing what they can to try to control this guy. And I get it. I mean, they had him pretty well boxed in for the most part. And there was somebody else there, told that other person to kind of get out of the area, so to speak. So there's lots of stuff to think about. You got to think about your backdrop, of course, and who's coming up behind you. And you're in the middle of a freaking parking lot, even though it's like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. There's a shit ton of stuff to think about, and clearly your safety is by number one paramount more than anything else. But, and so a lot of these guys, especially when you're younger, you've got a fire hose of information. You got to remember all this shit, and still be able to try to talk to this guy. So, again, I keep saying this over and over. It's easy for me to sit on my side of the fence after being retired, coming up on fucking 4 years. Can't believe that shit, but whatever. And sit here and tell you, oh, you guys need to do this and this because this is what I would do. Fuck that. That's bullshit, Do it your way. Figure out what you did to get trained up and then, figure out what you can do next. So.
Yeah, but see, and that's one of the things, though, too, that, you're like a rare breed where, the fallibility that we all experience, you being able to recognize that because it's in our failures or mishaps or misjudgments or anything else, and being able to recognize those, that we can sit there and see that fallibility in ourselves to be able to instill that on somebody else. Like, well, hey, look, now looking at it from, it's because you get to play devil's advocate in a sense.
Right.
To where it's hey, look, I followed it like this and things like that, but it really wasn't the best way. To where if I would have handled it like this, the situation would have turned out completely different.
Yeah. And I've had, I can't, talk about being humble. I can't tell you how many times I've gone out there and done just stupid shit. I'm like, God, I don't know how I walked away from that one. I can't remember if it's in this book or not, or if it's in my new one when I got slapped by the prostitute. I think I talked about that already once.
Yeah, it's in this one.
Is it in this one? Okay. I can't, just how many times I've read it. I can't even remember anymore, but that's one of those things. That is purely born out of complacency across the board. Like 9 different ways. And luckily it turned out for the most part okay, except for the unbelievable fucking ribbing for months and months and months and teasing and everything else that went along with it. But that could easily have been her pulling out a freaking knife and stabbing me in the neck. Holy shit. All the mistakes that I made that day. It was completely stupid on my part,
So there's your, hold on. Let me clear this out.
I can see part of it. So.
Let me clear it out right here.
Nice. I like it.
I have the because I had it for the WTDC tactical training. Just different things right there, and then on because I want to get some other ones too, because I'm going to have the audio ones, because I'm building out the video. To where I have all the different videos or the podcast videos built into here already.
Nice.
On your website and things too. Cool. To where they can buy the chapter by chapter and everything else too. So.
Right on.
Yeah, so I haven't hit publish yet because I want to get a couple more things on there. But as soon as I get a couple more things, it'll probably be published by the end of this weekend. I'll actually publish it to where, when somebody hits the, ChristopherHoyer.com, it'll go to this website. And then I have the different links to where it has the Amazon where they can get the book and things like that as well, too. And then once we start collaborating on getting the actual training courses, public speaking and things like that, individuals can actually request you to come out there and, kind of do the speaking and stuff like that. We can go over the price points and actually put that on the site as well, too.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, so you access for the actual email accounts, which you can actually tie it into the iPhones, Androids, or anything like that, too, to kind of to where whether you have Gmail, Hotmail, or anything else like that, you can actually have the IMAP going in there to where you'd receive the, ChristopherHoyer.com emails.
Right. We've got a QR code too as well that people can just pop on there and you can just pay for it right on the spot if you want to. Or
well, if you send me like anything like that or anything that you'd like to have on the website, I'll build it in there, and then I can send you over all the different login information where if you or Nat or anybody that helped you can actually just go into the site and build your own stuff into it as well too. I'll just give you access to the website builder where you can add anything in there or anything you wanted added on, any kind of pictures, any kind of information, links. I can, build all that into the website and everything else too for you.
I know. That's awesome, man. Thanks.
So,
so.
But Yeah, we're gonna get to there, man. You need to be out there, man. It's the I want to see this, man, and that way it can be your full time gig. You know, it's the go speak for a day and take the rest of the week off.
I could live with that. I could live with that. So, if truth be told, man, if I could figure out a way to be on the range, doing all my rifle stuff and all the officer rescue stuff, and then do all the public speaking all at the same time, I can literally make that a full time job for the rest of my life. You know, I mean, that'd be completely awesome. But
yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's the go in. Well, I mean, we can have this like conversation too, but because you can go into like the foreclosures within different counties and things like that, or you know, different warehouses and things like that that may be abandoned or things like that, and you know, I can get the funding or transition like different warehouses into tactical training, set up different courses and things like that for like, you know, rifle training or, you know, subject detainment and things like that as well too, and just transition all that in there for like a training facility, and we just have some throughout the nations and stuff like that. Or you know, there are a lot of agencies that kind of use it for a hub, but just like a, you know, I have places that, you know, are used for substations, you know, the same sense to where, you know, we could use that to kind of get you in there and, you know, do different trainings and things like that. So
yeah, you know, and I mean, every time I see someplace where I think I could do some training, I'm always thinking about, you know, what could we do here? You know, some kind of an abandoned house, or, you know, we used to do that all the time down where I worked. I mean, we'd find some abandoned house down in my old neighborhood, and we'd just as a group of 6 or 7 guys go in there and start doing, you know, high risk entries and stuff on our own just for practice. Clearly, we weren't the SWAT team, but there were those times we still had to clear houses and shit. We had to do it on our own because we can't call for the big guys all for everything. So,
well, that's funny too, because that's one of the things I look at too, especially on some of the houses that are abandoned or foreclosed on, whatever the case is, that have, especially like the steel doors, because that puts a whole different thing onto it to where it's the you know, trying to, when you got to have the prying go in, you can't just have our battering ram, you know, kick door in or kick, you know, whatever the case is. So you got to always have different scenarios of one that's not there and things like that. But you know, it's so many different like possibilities and things like that, and you know, play the things out to where somebody's abducted, you know, things in different rooms inside the home and things like that, do entry points. So, well, but
I want to bring in guys like I got a buddy from Arizona. He's the foremost CQB guy. Bring guys like that in, guys that run booby trap scenarios and shit like that. Stuff you're probably not going to be running into, but things that you just need to know about, you know.
And that's the point too. And again, going back to the whole thing of like, I'm not going to say that the academy just, you know, kind of gets you going and you're out. That's like in Cincinnati, we had the, you know, our academy up there in Cincinnati ran it's like 16 weeks, just like you know, the military or like the Marines boot camp and stuff like that, to where, you know, it's got like one of the top 3 because they had it used to be the Vortex unit, to where it was like the Vice and things like that for the canine units, but it had like the top 3 like for drug enforcement and stuff like that too. But it's pretty nice, and those different things like that. But man, it's limitless.
It's amazing the stuff that you learn, because I went through Shootouts instructor school in like 2016, I think it was 2017, and I thought I was pretty squared away. And going through and doing it as an instructor side, dude, there's so many things that I overlooked. I never even thought of. I was like, oh my God, who even knew about this kind of stuff, you know? Even the CQB stuff that I've done, which is fair. I mean, I've done my fair share of entries, nothing like a full-time SWAT team, but I mean, I know enough to be able to make it through and teach some guys some stuff. But there's things that you very much like shooting is very perishable, you know, stuff that I forgot about. Going, yeah, I kind of need to remember this kind of shit, you know, because that's why I want to bring in some of these experts that know more than I do, that have probably forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Well, it's like on like externally, you know, when you're like the outside environments and things like that, to where, you know, kind of going into like, you know, having the houses to go like entry points, but clearing your corner going into a home is completely different. And kind of like when John was talking about where he was, you know, responding to that domestic, and the fucking guys, you know, sitting behind a tree didn't even see him, to where, you know, a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind of like, you know, well, how do you clear your corner when you're in an open environment and things like that? And there are certain ways that you still have to, you know, move in and everything else too. So it's vital, and that's why like some things that aren't there, and even if they were trained on, the things that are forgotten, because they don't have that retraining and everything else too, and so it's
it's fascinating, man. That's where it's that's one of the reasons I got into it, because I thought, man, how great is this going to be to chase bad guys in the Wild West, and I'm gearing up, and before long I found myself on on a rooftop with a freaking camo netting over me for shade and shit. It's like, wow, I'm getting paid for this shit. This is great, man. Until things go bad, of course, like we talked about. But
Officer Hoyer had spurs on the back of his issues.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, so I love that kind of stuff, especially when guys get excited about it and they're like, yeah, I never thought about that before, And I was showing, not that they're really ever going to do it. Hopefully, God forbid they ever have to, but I was showing guys the way we were teaching officer down rescues, and not your traditional grab the guy up and, try to pull him into the back of a car, because it never works that way, We've got a whole brand. It's probably not brand new, but a whole different way that we were teaching that's unbelievably efficient. I mean, super efficient, really quick, works really, really well. And the guys are all like, oh my God, that's like the greatest thing ever, And it's like, yeah, well, I didn't invent it. I stole it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I clearly use it when I can teach it, but I always try to give credit to where credit's due, because I mean, a lot of stuff that I learned was stuff I never would have thought of in a million years. I'm like, why would I ever think of that? But
but a lot of times it's an invention, though. You know what I mean? I mean, even though something exists, you can always enhance something and reinvent, how it's done. You can reinvent the procedure, basically. You could have, one thing, but you just add something else to it, and it's.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, because the way we're doing it, one particular way was we'd come up with one car one day, one way, and one car this way, or we'd come up with a V, or we'd do the V, we'd have both the guys on the outside laying down cover fire, or whatever, all kinds of different variables, different ways you could do stuff. Clearly, environmentally is going to dictate a lot of stuff too, as well. But and we'd always think, worst case scenario, you're trying to do an officer now rescue in the middle of a freaking apartment complex parking lot, and the guy's laying down in the middle of the road, between the two rows of cars. How are you going to grab that guy up, during that kind of rescue? It's like, oh shit, well, you got to think of something else. And, you always come up with some other kind of a plan, but whatever. So then we start talking about bounding and shit like that, and again, it's one of those things where I always used to teach I was a participant in the 40-hour rifle school, but then I always taught the actual 10-hour, the one that I had to go through the retard school, because the guys had screwed up and let their shit lapse or whatever else, so they failed the qual or whatever. I always ask them the same question every time. I go, do you guys know the policy on, this is just an example, on cover fire? And they're like, they always look at me the same way, going, cover fire? What the hell do you mean? And I go, you guys realize that per policy, you're allowed to lay down cover fire? And they're like, no way. Yeah, dude, of course you can, and they didn't know anything about it. So I'd bust out the freaking policy and look, here it is right here. And it's got all the protocol and shit, and things you can't do and so forth. But I just always found it fascinating that guys knew so little about what they actually could do, and I always just felt like that was my responsibility to show them. And that's what I'm still trying to do now. It's like, look, I'm not going to know the policies for Ohio or whatever, but hey, think about this, and then go back to your agencies and figure out what you guys can and can't do and shit, So, but
yeah, there's still a one mode fits all, regardless of agencies and things like that. That everybody can be attentive on, especially when it comes to the mental preparedness of everything as well too. Again, going back to the reinvention. It's like, well, fuck, when fucking airbags first came out, it was only on the driver. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you have an accident. Oh shit, my family! It's like, now I have to live with this, and they're all flying out the window and everything else. It's like, hey, maybe we should put airbags in over here for the passengers as well. It's like, but but there's always ways to enhance on like what already is, and increase that and everything else too. So it's got to write it up, man.
Oh yeah. It's just endless. It's endless, But
we'll put programs together and things like that, because I do demographics a lot, and for businesses and all that good stuff. So like I do the demographics on causes and things like that, of like what's lacking in agencies and things like that. So we can kind of develop some of the different trainings and things like that based on agencies that are lacking the most, and that way it's more immediate on getting you in there and speaking and everything too. So
there's I'll have to send you his information offline when it sounds. But there's another guy out of Virginia that does something very similar to that, but they've got it down to like a major science. I mean, like huge. They're up and coming, and they've got it. I mean, he was explaining it to me last year, and way over my head. But they make it to where, on average, I think they started with something to the effect of somewhere between like 40 and 46% retention rate for training stuff, and they got done with their stuff, and they jumped up to like 96% retention rate. It's like, holy mother of God, just because they do the brain mapping and weird shit like that. So, yeah, if you're interested, I'll have to send you his information because I
love it. That's all I do is crunch data, and that's how I find these different things and construct programs, and that's like my nonprofit, like the very first one back in 2007, to where I was taking, because once like accreditation's granted on a specific program that you patent to where it's yours, like say you're like your training programs. So like back then, because I had alternative placements for juveniles, instead of them going through juvenile detention, they came through and received, I did MRT, which is moral recognition therapy, and then ART, which is aggression replacement training. And I rewrote everything else. So it was my own module, the way that it was administered, the way that it, taught the kids, taught them the moral side of things, plus the educational side, combine them together. And it became, my own that, got sold off the Lighthouse Youth Services. But, still the same thing with, what you're doing now and what, I hope you're going to be doing here in the near and distant future, to where, the program is going to be the Christopher Hoyer training program that other agencies can employ and things like that as well too. That becomes like the standard basically, so
yeah.
The demographic is so important. Well, yeah, I mean it's the you see different agencies because like the demographics I pull is how many, because I can pull the demographics from courts and everything as far as how many are discharged because of unlawful search and things like that, to where, hey, this agency obviously needs to be retrained on, certain methods of doing this, points of entry and all that other good stuff too. So I got my own little databases of, knowing who to target when we start launching what they're going to be doing. So
I love it, dude. I love it. So, hey, I was looking, I think I'm obviously on her computer. Her battery looks like it's getting ready to hit into the red. So,
all right, well, it's always a pleasure, man. We'll be doing this again Wednesday. So, but like I said, I'll have the website ready to launch. I mean, I'll keep adding things to it. But if you want to send me over that QR code, I'll build that into the website where they can actually just scan it from their computer and things like that as well too. I can write the program. The Word just launches into that, just like with the automatic links with Amazon and stuff, and then get all the different scheduling for the agency and stuff like that, man. And we'll touch base again on Wednesday, man.
Yeah. If I haven't thanked you enough, man, I got to say thanks again, brother. So
always, man. Thank you. I mean, the thank you is for you, man. It's endless.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I'm gonna see this guy's name on. He's on LinkedIn, and I think hopefully I got the name spelled right. But if you look him up, I'm obviously a friend with him on there. Just see what you think. Go do some research on his company and see if what you guys think about it. It's pretty awesome, man. I think you'll get something out of it. So
yeah, well, I mean, especially if it's a good friend of yours, I mean, because it's something that we could kind of unite what you do with what he does. I mean, there's always things like that, and I always look at the whole picture and what the picture could be. It's the fragments equal a whole.
Yeah, dude. So, cool, man.
All right,
I'll catch you.
Stay safe and stay blessed in all things, man. I love you, brother.
I love you back, man.
Yes, sir. Stay blessed.
Take care.